Hello, we're back. And we only have like one or two more of these, right? So, originally I was going to be sewing the Sandhill Sling by Noodlehead, and I do have one cut out that I have to sew as a gift, but I feel like it's going to be a little too involved for a Vlogmas video. And I really need to sew this on my channel. I have sewn so many of this little bag. One of my guild members gifted this pattern to me last year, and what a gift, because I love this pattern. I've sewn it many, many times, and I modify the inside so that the lining is flush with the bag, and it comes out really great. And I actually made two already for gifts that were requested this year for Christmas, and then I had one more requested by my daughter for her friend. So it's a nice little bag. It has like a pocket with a snap on it or a zipper on the outside, so there's just two options. And if you're looking for all the hardware, I highly recommend just going to Noodlehead's site and getting it, because it's good hardware and you get exactly what you need for the bag, and it just makes it really easy. So, and I know Hearts Fabric also sells some of the hardware as well. So yeah, that's my recommendation. But today I'm going to be using this pattern as a starting point for a book sleeve. So I looked for a Vlogmas idea from my guild, and there were so many good ideas. I was like, shoot, now I wish I would have asked these folks early in the month, because all these are such good ideas. One of them kind of caught my eye, and I actually realized that I have sewn one of these before for my sister, and I don't know if she uses it or not, but she's a super avid reader, and so is my mom. And so I thought I would make one for my mom, and it's a book sleeve. And so basically, I guess these are really popular on Bookstagram or Book Talk, and you can put your book in this little padded sleeve so that the pages don't get crumpled by throwing your book in a bag or whatever. And it's just a nice way to keep the book you're reading clean and nice as you're going along. So the Sandhill Sling has the kind of the same little rounded rectangular shape to it. I'm not going to put a pocket on the front, but I will put a little patch pocket on the inside. I very much simplified this, and I'm going to show you how I modified the pattern pieces. So if you have the Sandhill Sling, I know that's super specific, but I'll show you how to modify it, because you really don't have to do a whole lot to modify it. Anytime I make one of Noodlehead's patterns, I just make it onto pattern paper, because I know I'm going to sew it again. All of their patterns I sew multiple times. And you don't get the pattern pieces unless you buy the pattern in a store. If you do the download, you don't get pattern pieces. You have to draft them yourself. And so that's why I just draft them onto the paper one time, so I have it forever. So here's the piece, and then you can tell I pleated it right here. So I took an inch out of the total height, and this would make the indie size book sleeve. If you go to a really popular book sleeve manufacturer called Bookbow, their indie sleeve would be about this size. So I took an inch out right there. I just folded it up, and that way it's ready to go. And then I'm going to use that front patch pocket option as an interior pocket. And then for the perimeter, for the little baffle that goes all the way around, you're going to use a zipper for part of it. So pick a wide zipper. Don't use a dressmaking zipper. You're going to want one that's about 1.25 inches wide. All right. And this was a big chunky separating zipper that I had. So this is what I'm going to use. And then you're going to want to cut the rest of your baffle the same width. See that? Just like that. And you might have to measure your pattern, and an easy way to do this, because it's never easy to measure around rounded corners, besides just taking off this amount off the pattern pieces that come with your Sandhill Sling, what I recommend doing is just measuring. And so I'm going to stop my zipper about right here. So I would say that this is the top, like a little more than 1/3 of the sling. You do not want the zipper to go from like here to here. You have to round the corner. Don't make that mistake. I've made zippered things for long enough to know if you do not give yourself room to get that book inside and out, it'll be really hard, because you lose a lot of linear opening space on a zipper because of the zipper head and the teeth. And so you need to kind of round the corner. So I'm just gonna give myself a lot of space around there. And so measure where you want your zipper to stop, measure that, and then that would be your baffle, all right? So, all right, so I've obviously added a few little elements to mine as well. I didn't have enough fabric for the outer. In fact, I stole this fabric from the gift bag. Once I realized I was going to do this, I was like, you know what? This is the fabric I want for this. I stole it out of one of my favorite gift bag plans. So hopefully my mom likes it. All right, and so I have this as my outer, and I didn't have enough of it, so I'm going to piece it together with this little succulent print from Spoonflower. So that's my front and back. My lining is this right here, and I'm going to put a little patch pocket in there. And then here's my baffle right here that goes around the perimeter. And then this is a little handle that I made. And if you have to, I didn't have enough of a continuous piece of any of these fabrics, so that's why I'm going to piece them together with a diagonal seam. And this is a tip I got from sewing a noodle head pattern. It's really smart because if you are doing these kind of thick things, you need to offset the seam so then the thickness stays kind of even throughout and you don't get hung up on it or get like a bump. It's really smart. All right, and then I picked up this little trim out of my stash that someone gave me. Maybe I'll use this. I'm going to bind the inside. And, oh, I forgot my pieces over here. I'm going to be using, as an experiment, this soft and stable foam to make it really look like that store-bought one. So we'll see how this does, right? This feels a little bit chunky. I feel like I need to iron this stuff. It's a little wrinkly. So, all right. So let's just prep all of our pieces. So first I'm gonna prep my baffles and things. So let's see here. I think, this isn't all of them, is it? I should have. Is this how this goes? Wait. Let's make sure. We go around. And we go around. Oh, here's 4. Okay, good. All right. I was going to say, I thought I had 4 of these. I had to really piece this together. So I pieced my baffle together. Hopefully you don't have to. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and I pieced it so that it would look intentional. And now I'm going to, I think, let's see, what do I want to do? I think I'm going to push this seam allowance towards the center. I'm going to stitch on either side of the center one. I knew that was going to happen. Anytime I don't have fabric under there, like just perfectly, if I start sewing, it unthreads the needle. Rare, but you know, it happens. Okay, I cannot see this thread. There we go. All right, stitch on this side. And then we'll push this one towards the center. All right, just like that. Now we have this baffle. That'll go with this guy right here. Just like that. And then let's do the handle. So we're going to sew this. And when you cut these, cut them if you're going to offset it like this and do the diagonal seam. Just like with binding, cut your fabric all face up or all face down. Don't do it right sides together or wrong sides together. It will not work. So you need to do it the same direction. That way it will sew together and make a nice continuous strip. Okay. Overlap it so you can see your little corner poking out there, and that's the juncture of the seam allowance. Let's see, now we have a nice smooth continuous piece, and then we'll do this one too. I'm kind of winging this little handle. All right. I think I'm going to top stitch it. Sometimes I just start top stitching while I'm thinking, like trying to figure out what I plan on doing. I didn't have enough to make this as like a little strap where I could just fold it, fold, and then edge stitch it. I have to make an under fabric, like a backing. So the top handle will be one and the bottom handle will be another. Not ideal. And I don't really want it this wide. So let's see. I think I want it more like that, like 3/4 or maybe an inch. And this is 2 inches wide. So if I sew this right sides together, I don't really want to have to turn this right side out though. I could probably manage with this canvas, maybe. Maybe we'll just do one side and then we'll edge stitch the other. Let's make it easy. Let's be nice to ourselves. It's Christmas. All right, so let's trim this. And we'll trim this. And then let's go to the serger, or yeah, the iron. Making sure it's still hot. Let's, yeah, that's what we'll do. Okay. I'm gonna iron it toward the solid. I want the solid to be out. And then I'm gonna fold this seam allowance to that one. So it's kind of a pretend way of doing that strap where you fold, 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 fold. And then we'll fold this one too. Maybe we'll use this as a guide. I figure a little strap will be nice. Little hand strap. I don't know if these are supposed to have that though. Maybe that's not a, I mean, it's not a purse, right? It's just a little book sleeve. So maybe I'm over engineering. Definitely not doing this very straight though. It's probably this little thickness here. So let's overcompensate a little. Like that. Whoa, my iron started sliding. This little thing that it sits on is a little slippery when it's warm. And I just had to found an antique trivet and put it under there because it's actually heating up my table, my wood table underneath the wool felt mat. So things you learn. All right. Is that on there good? Yeah, that's on there good. All right. So I'm going to do it from this side. Oh, and I was thinking about putting this on the handle. I think that's just a little too much. You know, like this would be the bag like this. Let's only see what we'd see on the outside. That, and then we'd have our little strap sticking out like this. And this on here. I don't know, what do you think? This is really thick already. I think I'm gonna skip it. Shoot, I was kind of looking forward to using that. Maybe I can use this one here. I pulled it out because I thought I could put it in this little seam. I knew I didn't want to do both. That would have been a lot, you know? All right, so let's edge stitch this. Definitely could have done a better job of the ironing probably. But when the strap is folded on the bag, those little parts that stick out tend to not be as noticeable because you see the fabric behind it like that, you know? So there we go. That's my little strap. And we'll just stitch it shut at the bottom like that. I think I'll put that in the baffle seam, but we'll see. Hopefully I can do it. All right, so let's think about this. So I was thinking, is this too much? Is this poked out a little bit? Would we even see it? This is like, you know, we tend to not use these these trims, right? And what if we went down? Oh, that's cuter. That's what we'll do. And sometimes you just gotta like use it, you know? You just gotta remember to use it. Okay, this could be ironed. Rick rack, am I right? All right, so I think I want this to stick out. I think I'm just gonna stick this on here like this. And just try and get as even as possible. That's my plan. All right, and then now if I do a seam, definitely a vintage trim. Another one of these things someone gave me when they moved away. Sometimes it's easier to use something when you're not so sentimentally tied, you know? That helps. All right. Oh yeah, this will be cute. And then we'll push it down. That's pretty cute. All right, let's do another one here. Okay. This one's more behaved. Okay, let's put this seam on here. If you weren't doing the strap or the interior pocket or this little bit of trim, I actually think this could be a pretty, you know, quicker little project, you know? All right. So let's hem this pocket, and I was about to iron it, but we'll just wing it. I'm just gonna do a little flat pocket. I don't know what it's for. And it's gonna go on one of these lining pieces. And so let's put this up high, and we'll position it by doing this. Get it straight and pin it down. So nice to use some of these scraps. All right. Oops, what am I doing? Here we go. Start right here. Start right here. Hem this little pocket. I'll have to ask my sister if she ends up using her book sleeve. It might not fit the books that I made it for. I can't remember what I did or what I made. I hope my mom's not sick of this succulent fabric. I feel like I've used it for a few things for her. But I don't think she has them anymore, so maybe it won't be so overused. All right, we have our little pocket. All right, and so let's assemble this all together. So let's see, let's put this baffle together too. And then we'll just press this open. Oh, what the heck? How did I do that? How did I do that? Oh, and I just lost a spool of thread too. That's so funny. The other funny thing about this is that I'm pretty sure I cut 3 of these, or the scrap looked just like it, and I was kind of like, what's this third one here? So just now when I did this, I was like, wait, is this two wrong sides together? And then one that's to it, to do the other two. There we go. All right, now let's press the seam allowance. And we're just going to put this like this. And this, all these things wrong sides together like that. That's what I want, right? This is what I want. And then we're going to put the zipper here. Actually, we're going to put this, I'm going to hang this off the edge here. We're going to put this one on here. So the only thing I don't like about using non-zipper by the yard is this right here, how it splays like this. Like I can't get that to stay. Because I love when the zipper just goes into the seam allowance. It's kind of magical looking. I'm pretty sure that needs to be right up at the top. I'm being too nervous about it, and I need to not be. Let's get it all the way up there. Oh, and we also want our handle. So that's good. That's good. I made that mistake. The handle is also going to go right here. I'm going to put it where the zipper closes. So if I use zipper by the yard, which would have been kind of, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about the size of my strap, and it's too big. It's too big. That's really funny. Look at this nice strap. You know what I'll do? Maybe I'll attach it with some rivets, because I have some rivets. I think that's what I'll do. That'll look kind of cool. We'll just do that at the end then. All right. That's funny. All right. So let's put this, that zipper pull down, and we're going to put this closer to the top. That's such a perfect example of you just never know what you don't think of, you know? Because trust me, there's plenty of things you just think, there's no way this won't work. And then you're like, oh, how did I not think of that? Or why doesn't this work? You know, like, why is that an issue? You know? All right, so this is that. All right, so let me get that seam allowance a little better, so that we don't see that seam like that. All right, and then now we'll top stitch this like that. Yeah, all right, and then let's do the same on this side. So now I always give this little like pep talk / lecture. When you're doing things in layers, you know, where you have like an interlining or a lining and then an outer fabric, even if it's just a lining and an outer fabric, remember that the layers, if you cut them all exactly the same, they're not going to line up perfectly. And that's just the nature of the thicknesses displacing the fabric a little bit. So you either need to fight with it and just make it work, or you have to tailor all your pattern pieces. So just so you know that, because see how this look at how much bigger that is in there. That's probably going to be a problem, actually. That's a lot bigger. See that? Ooh, yeah. We might have to adjust that. I cut these two based on one measurement, and maybe all these seams have choked up a little bit on that length. So once we get these we're going to get these partially assembled, I'm going to double check that. Things like that happen. I am not surprised at all. All right, so let's get rid of a lot of these little riffraff in there. I sort of want to iron this. Yeah, let me iron this, these things, because I don't want to immortalize those wrinkles, you know. So I'm going to do it through the fabric. I'm not very familiar with the soft and stable foam, but from what my little bit of experience, it just reacts so nicely. Like, These wrinkles just fall right out of it. And we'll just iron these for good measure. There we go. Not sure if that trivet's going to be the best thing for the iron, but we'll see. All right. So now we're just going to make sandwiches. So this is the pocket one, all right. And do I want to label? I think I want to label. There doesn't really have to be a front or a back to this, but it's for my mom, so, you know, I've got to do something. Like, what do we want here? I know what I really want, but I ordered it and it's not here yet. How about this finished just in time because it matches? And it is kind of, you know, we're right before Christmas. So we'll put it on that other one. Let's make sure we don't get these a little bit wonky at all. And I think in this case, I'm gonna tack a lot because of the foam. It is a little less shifty than the stiffener I usually use. Because to be able to, the fact that I could sew around this whole perimeter without adjusting is pretty impressive. All right, so there's one. Let's do this one now. Okay. And this. I think that'll be okay. It's going to be bound, so I'm not sure we're going to see it very much, but we'll see. See, again, this is another good scrap busting project because you use a pretty sizable scrap to make it. There, and the gal in the guild who suggested this actually posted a link to someone's like blog post for a free pattern. All right. So now let's check this right here. All right, so I'm going to look at this like half and half, like this. All right. And I know this one has notches, the lining, so we're just going to use the notches on, I can't see that one there, so there it is. There's the notch. We're going to walk this around best we can. So now my experience with zipper, zipper is like its own little beast. There's something about zipper that never stays the same length and lines up when you're sewing it to things. Okay, so that's kind of tight, but that will work. This is the long thing. So this is long by a lot. Like how let's just take out this one here because I sewed this with only 2 seams and the other side I sewed with like 14. So we'll just take this one out and then we can write it. Now, like I said, it doesn't need to be the exact same as the outer. It should actually be a little smaller. So we'll at least do that. If we make them exactly the same, that's better than what they're at now. But if we make them a little bit smaller, that'll probably be good. So now, if you're kind of like, I know someone else was like, binding miss, because I do binding, you know, instead of vlog miss, it's a lot of binding. I know, sorry. This is a good project to practice it though, because no one's going to see it. You would want, I feel like you would want your seams to be really flush, like the inside of this to be flush with the outer. And if you bind it, then it will be. So I rushed this little seam ripping right here. We get it? Yeah, there we go. All right. Messiest seam ripping ever. All right, so let's get this, these right here, the same. It makes sense that it's these two though, because I cut those out together. All right, let's get it a little bit more refined. It could be helpful to iron that right there. All right, so I'm gonna cut this 1/4 inch shorter. That. All right, let's re-sew it. I just put the lining to the right side to the wrong side, and the outer and the soft and stable to the outside. Hopefully I didn't twist it. Make sure all these are straight and lined up like this. All right, let's check it before we top stitch it. Okay, that looks better. All right. Okay, so now we're going to mark this in quarters. So let's line those seams up together. And this isn't going to get washed, right? So I got to kind of be careful with what I mark it with. I can use pins. There and there. That's a pencil mark I did earlier. All right, and then this end has the seam, right? Okay, and then we'll line up these centers over each other to get the middle on the side here. I kind of want to clip this. I'm just going to clip the canvas though, because the inside isn't going to line up perfectly. I'd have to turn it inside out to be able to do that. What am I doing here? Yeah, so let's line that back up there. There we go. Okay, now I have the notches on the centers of the lining here, and I think that's all I need because, okay, make sure I'm going to leave my zipper a little bit open because we're going to be doing this from the inside. So I'm going to see this side first. That's my plan anyway. All right, and we're going to put this center here like this. Nope. Almost did that wrong. Yeah. We want to do it like this. Center like this. Yeah, okay. Got a little turned around there. This, we're going to pin all of our landmarks. Maybe even just tack them with the machine so they're truly non-negotiable. Here's that center on this center. So I'm looking at the lining center onto that canvas there. Binding clips would be better for this. And then let's put this lining center right there. Yeah, we kind of want to do this from this side too. Press our lining out like that. Probably should have tacked these together. That would have been smart. Should we do that? I kind of want to do that. You're not going anywhere. Yeah, let's just tack these together. Yeah, like this. And kind of ease it in a little bit. It already feels 100 times less fussy. Do this side. All right, there we go. That feels better, right? All right, where's my binding? Right here. And we're gonna switch thread color. Don't worry, I wasn't gonna sew the binding in the contrast. Now, is there anything else I wanna add to the outside of this? I don't think so. Because this is it. This is our last 2 stitches, basically. Oh, I thought I got that. And I'm thinking like this right here, you know, I'll put it on the back one, maybe with a rivet like that. Maybe I should just do it out of the seam here, or like near the seam like that. And I could actually offset this thickness like this, where sometimes what I do is I butt up the ends. What's this thread right here? Oh, it's just a thread. Okay, that's fine. All right, so I butt up the ends like this, and then sew it down like that in a box. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I just changed my thread color. I'm going to use this, though. This thread color matches perfectly. I only have it on a bobbin. Let's hopefully it'll... That kind of worked perfect. I can set it on top of the cone. Yeah, that works good. Okay. And then... this way I know I can get this on. I can always add the rivet later, but it's always, you know, those kinds of hardware things, it's like you want to make sure they're going to work, right? So this at least guarantees it's on there. So let's trim this all up here like that and like this. And then we're going to, this is the back. Something like this. That's what it's going to look like against the bag. Get a nice right angle there at that fold. I'm going to push it away from the seam a little bit more. You just never know what'll be a problem. Don't show the cream thread. Okay, good. Okay. The bobbin is still cream. So if you ever have trouble like folding under your webbing or your straps on your machine, like the thickness is too much, you can do this. So look at how nice and flat that is. And so there's where they're butted up right there. And on the inside we just have this little square. Oh, this is actually the back. That's okay. This looks cute. This actually looks kind of cute. It can go either way. All right. Now let's do our binding. I know you're just dying to get to the binding. I wish I had a paperback to stick inside here. I actually looked around the office, but none of my books over there, they're just all sewing textbooks. Not really any novels. All right, so we're binding. All right, so again, I'm going to put the center. And now let's see, if this is what I'm thinking of as the back, and then this pocket's on the front. It's also on the other side than I thought too. That's how that is. The zipper is going to end like that over here. I think I have it lining up to this little seam too. I at least tried to do that with the fabric I had. So that goes there, and then this center should go there. Perfect. Oh, wrong. Right sides together. Oh my goodness. The little rickrack will also hide if I don't get that lined up perfectly. Let's get the binder. Sorry. I don't really have much use for those very often, so I love being able to use them when I can. And the softness table is thick enough that it's just faster to use these than to use a pin. There's the center, perfect. Center. There we go. Okay, that's a little off from each other. The lining to the outside, but that's because we shortened it. That's right. Okay. All right, so when I do binding, I'll give you my little spiel if you haven't heard it a million times. On this particular thing, I'm going to gently tug as I sew it on there, and I fold back the beginning like this so that we don't have to seam it when we get there. All right. I don't usually like pre-tacking, like all these seams are pre-tacked, and it's because right now when I sew this, if I don't sew to the left of all those pre-tacked seams, you'll see them on the bag. So that's why I don't do a lot of pre-sewing, because I get a lot of people asking sometimes, can I pre-sew this? And of course you can. I don't, because I'm worried I won't be as accurate when I go to do the final seam, you know. And I say that because a lot of people are more accurate than me. A lot of you guys are probably a lot more accurate than I am. Sometimes when you get more skilled, you get kind of worse at other things, and that's because you know you can fix it. You know how to fix things, and you know how to compensate. And so my sewing is definitely not the as precise as it could be, or consistently. If I want it to be, yes. All right, so here, so like I was saying earlier, zipper can be really weird. It's very, very inflexible. You can't, like, easing zipper is really hard, so try and maintain your seam allowance here. Might need to pull down the camera, huh? gonna yoink this over. It's all fitting perfectly though. That's good. Okay. I'm gonna like pull this like this, kind of past the seam. That way it's a little easier to get it to get up to the edge. Because it wants to pull away from those curved edges. So I overcompensate. All right, and so now we're at the beginning and I just lay it down flat to that folded edge and trim it flush with the turned back edge right there. Just like that. All right, now we're gonna look at this, and this is a good time to look at your seam on the right side. Make sure none of those pre-tacked seams, like see there, right there, there's one showing barely. So we'll just sew that one a little bit. I actually can't tell, is it on the, oh, it's the one on the baffles, so I can't see it because the bindings cover it. So we'll just go here. So a little wider right there. Okay, that's good. All right, and so we'll do this binding first. I'm gonna pop it, and let's, oh, I should have made sure I don't need to trim any. I like really nice even seam allowances. These curves are gonna be the ones that you really wanna make sure you have a nice even seam allowance. Not short, just even, flush with the width of your binding. So if you sewed your seam allowance in at 1/4 inch, you wanna trim it down to 1/4 inch. Make sure you don't trim anything else. And make sure you left, when we get to the other side, you left some of your zipper open. Otherwise you can't turn it right side out with the case of some zippers. Some zippers won't let you open them from this inside. This one I could. Okay, so I don't have to worry about it with this one. All right, so we're gonna really thick right there. I think it's just the seam of the canvas to the bottom of the zipper. And I'm really firm here. My fingers are pulling really hard. So I will pull it really hard, and I pull this away from me. Pull, and I really make that seam nice and flat, the one that we've already sewn. There's nothing underneath it. And then same thing, I took that zipper right there and I'm pulling it like that. Pull the binding to this side and the zipper to the other side. If you don't do the soft and stable, it'll be easier. But I will say this isn't the soft and stable is actually pretty easy to manage. And that's what I wanted to experiment with. So again, here I'm gonna pull the zipper away really firmly. And then that way I know there's nothing buckling under there. And then I'm always adjusting, and I lift up my presser foot and I'm pulling again that zipper like that way. And you can see it kind of crumpled that way, and that's okay. Because now I can use my fingertips to kind of pull it toward me a little bit, and I know I'm only gonna get what I wanna sew. All right, now we're a nice, easy area. Just double check everything. Okay, we're getting back down to a curve, and so I'm going to pre-fold this a little bit. So I kind of pull it like that, and I kind of tuck that raw edge in there so that this fold is going to land in the right spot. It's kind of like pre-folding it. Because I gently pulled on my binding as I attached it, it wants to naturally turn to this side and turn under. And it'll feel weird going around those corners. Just try and sew in the seam allowance. When you have those curved things, they're just really awkward. You know, we're doing this on our home sewing machine, not with an industrial that's been set up to sew that thing automatically. So you've just got to, like a binding attachment, you know, that's been calibrated for that. So it's going to feel weird. Just if you stay in the seam allowance, you're not going to affect anything of the bag. To stay in that seam allowance. This is one of those times where you don't really need the binding to look clean finished on both sides. Like, you don't need the stitching to land on the binding on the other side, because we don't want to change, like, we don't want to sew our seam bigger than what we already sewed it the first time, right? We're just trying to stay inside that seam allowance with this binding step. So your binding's more going to look like either in the binding stitched on the other side or stitch in the ditch. Let's see, we probably got a mix of both, but look how clean finished that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so now we'll do our other side. Make sure you put it top to top. And then we want to make sure we also don't get it any kind of torquing. All these little threads. So here, I'm going to look at where that's lining up, just like that. And there's that center and the center. Perfect. Okay. Center notch. Center notch right there. See how it wants to kind of pleat up here? That's partly because it's kind of thick with the soft and stable in there. Lost my little notch here. Oh, but I see it on the, there I do, I see it. Okay. One more. And then this center to that center right there. I think mine's finishing a little wider than theirs do. Theirs finish a 1/2 inch wide. That sounded hard. All right, let's put my handle in here. Like that. Get all these threads to the seam allowance. And again, we'll start over here since this one started here. We'll start on this side. I'm always sweeping these threads to the seam allowance. So what I like about the stiffener I use is that it's really thin, like it's really compact as far as like the density, it's, you know, but it's also much stiffer. So I never use this stuff in my bag making. But I have friends who loved it, and I just already was in the rabbit hole of what I did, and I had a wholesale vendor, and you can actually get this wholesale. I actually found that, but it's not that, if it's that brand, they don't say it's that brand, but you can get it like as yardage, where it's actually 45 inches wide, not whatever you get in that package. All my patterns were set up for my stiffener, which was more like for Pellon 70. And mine is stiffer than Pellon 70. Pellon 70 is great, but it wasn't quite as stiff. So now that I've gotten to try this, I can see the appeal of it, because in some ways it's more flexible. So like it can stretch and contract a little if you need it to. And it fluffs up, like it makes your binding seams look really nice. I like that. It fills it all up, you know what I mean? Kind of, it's like it's filled with air or something, which makes it look nice. And it's very pliable, so even though we're doing all this thickness right now, it's actually very manageable because it's lightweight and malleable, you know. Whereas the stiffener I used, it was less malleable. But if you really wanted that really stiff, you know, thing and thinner, it was great. I've never washed this stuff. I imagine it washes fine, and ours did too. Ours was washable. Like, it washed great. It was amazing. I feel like I'm doing this wrong sides together, but I am doing it wrong sides together. Okay, we're on this last curve, and getting fiddly. You get these, the last curve is always harder, and plus I have this zipper pull here, so I'm going to slide it out of the way a little bit. Pull this. So remember, I kind of pull it, let it hang straight off the edge here so I can get closer to the curve. Like that. And I don't think, honestly, opening this is helpful, but I'm going to try it. Let's see, can I open it right now? Maybe not. I was going to try and get past the head a different way. But I guess that's not the case. All right, there we go. All right, just make sure everything's nice and flat. And, you know, like, if you get a little, like, bubble here, remember, like, that's pulling away right there from the corner, right? So we need to yoink it over like that. There we go. And now we're just making sure all these threads to the seam. All right. And so this time, my awl won't let me use my scissors. I'm going to try and look inside here to make sure it's worth it. Make sure your seam looks good everywhere. What is that right there? That isn't good right there. So we barely caught, oh yeah, we barely caught that right there. Okay, good, we checked. Okay, it's like everywhere. Don't get lost on the one you're working on. It's this one here. And also, like, this part right here, like turning it right side out, the stiffener would be a little harder. Yeah, so it's just this little spot right there. Hopefully that's the seam that I'm working on. And this thread right here, which I should probably pull from the inside. All right, so just that right there. Yeah, that's that seam. It's gonna look cute. I can already tell. All right, so I could just sew it wider, and I think I'll be fine doing that, but you gotta be careful. You can't just keep sewing your seam wider because you'll lose some of your width of your binding. And this does feel a little bit like, you can tell that's poking out, and this one didn't get all the way there. So I don't know if that was enough. It's this seam right here though, right? Yeah. White threads kind of, we'll just sew it one more time just to make sure. And we'll do a nice small stitch. There we go. All right. All right, so our last seam, trim this down a little bit. Right here, definitely. Okay. See, look at that binding. It's like already trying to hug it. Oh man, this took me a lot longer to sew than I thought. Good thing I didn't do the Sandhill sling. Let's check this whole seam out. Everything looking good. Everything looks good. All right. Okay. Remember, stay inside your seam allowance. I have such a good Santa letter today. I can't believe I haven't thought of it sooner. Like, I'm sure some of you were like, how come you're not asking for that one thing that we've been pining for? Can you guess what it is? All right, let's put this handle out of the way. I'll have to like photograph this with some like twinkly lights, a little olive branch, a book with a dark cover. Have you ever visited Bookstagram or Book Talk? I see a lot of those because my sister's super into reading, like I said. We talk books a lot. She's the one who tells me, hey, there's another one in the series. All right. And see this, the little baffle here. I'm gonna pull it so that's like flat like that, because it gets in your way, especially with this corner. So I'm just gonna pull the bag away. If you've ever done one of my like project bag or pocket bucket videos, which are pretty heavy duty sewing, we talk a lot about bag mashing, and I really woman handle that bag. Like I mash the heck out of it while I'm sewing it to make it easier to sew. And it's the same thing here. And you never want to be shy about doing that, especially in bag making. Let it know who's boss. And if you can't like handle it like that while you're sewing it, it's probably not gonna hold up, right? So sewing is so much stronger than we think it is. I was just talking about this the other day with some folks, and how like when I've worked with new sewers, I've noticed, like when I was working with like this high school program with teenagers, and they hadn't sewn before, their tendency was to put a really short stitch length. They're so worried about their garment falling apart. And I think in all the years I've been sewing, I've never seen just a seam just fall apart. You know, there's a reason. If you ran out of bobbin or it didn't get sewn, you know, like that's about it. There's never ever, a seam just never just falls apart, even if the stitch length was really long. I mean, like if you look at some ready to wear stuff, it's like 4 stitches per inch sometimes on some of those bags and things. So your item can really handle being yoinked around. All right, this is good. This looks good. Like I didn't want this to get like off like that, you know, or more like this, you know. Let's check it out. And if there were any other little seams here that looked funky, we could still probably sew a little bit of the even though the seam inside is finished with binding, you could still probably choke up on the seam a little bit to fix it. Oh, so maybe I want to top stitch this so that the binding doesn't pop out like it's doing like that. See how it's doing that? It looks cute. It really looks like the ones on their site. I think they're using like fused foam onto fabric. A little bit off there. Oh, man, it's a little bit off in the wrong way too. Like, it'd be okay if this side was above the zipper on both sides, but it's not. So it is a little bit like, and maybe I don't really need to top stitch that. It doesn't seem to be affecting it. See, look, it's a nice wide mouth frog. We can put a book in there. Little pocket. Very cute. Very cute. That was a fun one. Thanks for the suggestion, Danielle. All right. Could probably press out some of these wrinkles. It looks so crooked on camera. Maybe it's just the camera. There's the little pocket. Nice. All right, let's write our letter to Santa because this is one thing I really, really want. I have so much good candy right now. It's like dangerous. All right. Antlers on. Our stack of letters here. I mean, these aren't the letters. I totally sent those to the North Pole. So, dear Santa, this one comes from the heart. This is for all those buttonholers out there. We really, 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 really want a dedicated buttonhole machine for home use. That is awesome. Please. You know what I mean, right? We just want a really good buttonholing machine. They would sell the heck out of that. I would pay $500 for a machine, or I might even pay $1,000 for a machine that just did buttonholes very reliably. If I could and it was just like a smallish machine. I don't want it to have all these bells and whistles. Don't make it $2,000 because you're going to do the tailor's thing and the automatic thing and then the cutting and all that. No, I just want an extremely reliable and consistent buttonhole machine. It doesn't have to be digital. I'd prefer it not to be digital. I'm just talking about a super sophisticated zigzag machine. And I know that, but I already have this machine. I already have a serger. I spent, $750 on a serger. If you can make a machine like a serger for $750 or $1,000 or whatever that is, one of those was $750, one was $1,000. I don't remember which was what. Or a cover stitch machine for that. Why can't there be a buttonhole machine for $500? They'd sell the heck out of that thing. Imagine. And I don't no digital. Please, no digital. It would be just great if maybe it had the kind where you just put the button in the thing. But I don't even need that, really. I just want a very reliable, consistent, nice-looking buttonhole. I don't care about tailor's style. Maybe do an upgrade version for that. So that would be... it seems so reasonable, and I'm telling you, they'd sell the heck out of it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If people will buy a serger, they'd buy a buttonholer. I mean, yeah, I know it's a space issue, but at the same time... think about tailors. Tailors would eat this up. Please, Santa, please. All right. Well, thanks for coming along, making my little book sleeve, and I'll see you tomorrow for the last one. And let's see, what am I doing for tomorrow? Oh, I'm making something for my pets tomorrow. So I'll see you then for Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas Eve Eve. Bye.